TimeShot, yes, TimeShot. I'm in the place where my friends are, and I know together we'll go far. Yeah, TimeShot, yes, TimeShot. And I'm still doing things the TimeShot way.
Hello, people. It's Poet. And I'm back on TimeShot, as you can probably hear in my voice a little bit, and you'll hear it more and more as I talk, but I've got a cold, something fierce. It started out as like a flu-ish thing, and then where I had a fever, and I was like in bed shaking, and oh, it was so horrible. And now it's kind of downgraded itself to a cold, a bad head cold, which, you know, if you've had one of those, it's really not any better. In fact, for the most part, when people get head colds and stuff, they usually say like, oh, I wish that I had just a regular puking my guts out kind of sickness, because, you know, at least those you can contain in some weird way. But anyway, yeah, it's been kind of annoying as of late. This is my first week in Michigan, so it's sort of put a damper on things in a way. But anyway, I wanted to tell you guys, this is the story. Actually, I got to the reason I cleared my inventory just now, or at least cleaned it up a little bit, is because I actually want to do a little bit of mindless mining on my own. Hope you guys don't mind. I hope you guys don't mind. I want to do some mindless mining. I'm gonna grab some stuff that I need. I guess I need some food too. 17 chicken will not sustain me, probably. Yeah, okay. That should be good. So, where did we leave off? Let's see. Oh, okay. So the very last episode, I'm reminding myself, very last episode, I recorded literally moments before I drove to the airport to pick up Win. So it's been some time. It's been quite some time, and a lot has happened. So I'm going to go through everything, kind of keep you guys updated on what's been going on. I need quite a bit of iron right now. That's kind of why I'm going out and wanting to mine some stuff. But I do know that there are people who have certain farms that generate tons and tons and tons of iron, but I've never really been about that. Well, that's not true. That's not completely true. On Red Cubed, I used to make use of the iron farm all the time, but it's been some time. Where am I going? Where am I? What's the way? It's been a while. Yeah, I rather cave for it, if anything, or mindless mine. I think to not bore you guys entirely, we're just gonna go caving a little bit. But then the question is where. I've got some ideas. Let's go past Edson's old house here and use his dock, and we're gonna go off towards Christmas Island and do some caving out there. I think that area should pretty well be untouched by human hands. So, sorry about the sniffles. I mean, you can't avoid it, really, honestly. Unless you guys want to hear me blowing my nose every 2 seconds. Okay, so you guys left off with the to be continued as I stopped recording, grabbed my keys, grabbed my wallet, went out the door to pick up Win. Like that's how fast it happened. Like it was really that immediate. So when we were kind of worried for a little bit that she would have some problems getting through customs. We didn't know, and honestly, you always have to be prepared for the worst. Because here's the thing, she didn't have a return ticket for her plane. She didn't have a return ticket, and so, you know, if the guy at the border didn't believe her story, easily he could have said, you know what, I feel that you are lying to me, that you're coming here to stay, you have no return ticket and no way of getting back home. So, you know, you're going to be denied entry. And we actually feared that for a while, that she would be denied entry to Canada. But fortunately, it was like absolute piece of cake. Standard questions. Where are you going? How are you getting there? How are you getting back? And when she answered them honestly, he stamped her passport and said, okay, have a great day. Have a great trip. So that was great. She was only here for, well, the story. I mean, I'd let her tell the story about her problems getting to Canada. But to sum it up very quickly, her flight was supposed to leave at 6 p.m. her time, or 6:30, in and around 6 to 7 p.m. From her airport. She got to the airport early, and it was delayed by 3 hours. Delayed. And with that in mind, she knew right away, uh-oh, my connecting flight, because you have to get a connecting flight. There's no direct ones. My connecting flight's going to be, I'm going to miss it. So she was freaking out trying to get on another flight, and they're telling her, no, all flights are basically, they're booked solid. We can't get you on another flight. The most we can do is like comp your ticket, and then you wait in the other airport till tomorrow. Or we'll put you up in a hotel tonight, and then tomorrow morning you fly out. So she opted to stay. She was waiting and waiting and waiting, thinking, you know what, at least if I'm traveling in that direction, it's better than nothing. And so her flight got delayed again a little bit, and it all happened because of the hurricane that was going on in Florida. Because apparently the pilot was down there, and he was stuck down there or something. And the pilot that was supposed to fly their plane, and you know, it was whatever. It is a crazy circumstance that wouldn't have happened otherwise, but it's what happened. Thankfully, fortunately, she did eventually. They were threatening to cancel her flight. She was all really upset. She was crying. She was not happy. Because everything was supposed to go smoothly. She was supposed to spend the entire day with me. Turned out that, you know, unfortunately, that's not how it worked out. And she ended up spending the night in an airport, in Minneapolis airport. Which really, really, really sucks. It's not comfortable. They give you these little mats to sleep on. They're like an inch thick of cardboard. They're not really, I mean, they're not comfortable. It's loud. There are people walking around. There's lights constantly. It's either too hot or too cold. It's not a nice experience, honestly. So she made the most of it. She slept in an airport, which you can imagine probably was not very nice and not a good experience. And flew out the next morning. First flight the next morning. I don't even know what kind of flight she was on. Like, I looked online to see if there was an early flight, and like, she was on a flight that I didn't even know existed. I think she was on like a luggage carrier or a mail carrier or something. Like, I don't even know how she got on the flight, but she was on the earliest flight in. Got in as early as she could, and that's that. She got here at around 10:30 or so. No problems at the customs. They let her through. And then we spent the next couple days essentially just making sure everything was ready for our trip, because we were going to drive down. So this is kind of the culmination of a lot of things. As you guys know, we had a GoFundMe. I did have it in the description of TimeShot videos for quite some time. And we were thankfully able to raise about $300 and some odd dollars. I don't remember the amount. I didn't remember the amount last time. I still don't. But let's say it's about $350 and some change, maybe $360 and some change. And we are super grateful for that. Like, I seriously didn't even think that we'd get $1, and that's usually the way that it goes, is that like people come out and donate and give to us, and it's always every single time blows us away. It's just unbelievable the amount of like, you know, YouTube has been failing. Our views have been going down. We always think, well, because our views are down, we don't have very many people watching us anymore. We don't have very many people watching us, so therefore, you know, we're not going to get anything from this. But, you know, it's always the case where we have to try. You know, we have to. It's not a matter of, oh, should we or shouldn't we? No, it's that we actually legitimately have to, or we couldn't afford to do anything. Now, things are changing, obviously, because I've got a job now, yeah, so it's helped already, like the last few months. I've been working there for about, God, what's it been now, 5 weeks, 6 weeks? I don't know, let's say 6 weeks. Feels like it's been a week, but I know that it's more like 6. Anyway, that in mind, it's helped so much. I get paid weekly. And that extra little bit amount, the tiny amount every week, it just sets us at ease and gives us a little bit of a buffer zone to at least be able to feed ourselves. If we have a bill to pay, we can pay it, and that's helped so much. But anyway, it doesn't mean that we didn't still need support from you guys for a unexpected, well, it wasn't unexpected, but for a trip like this that was sort of an extreme expense. So what we were going to do, we were going to rent a van, U-Haul van, which is, if you're not aware of what U-Haul is, because I'm sure you're watching from all over the place. Maybe they don't have U-Haul somewhere in the world. I don't know. It's a moving van company. You rent a van and you move with it. And they have depots in Canada. They have depots in the U.S. We're going to rent a van. Unfortunately, the way that the cheapest option that they've got for $1,500 was to take the van, drive it all the way to Winnipeg, where I used to live in Canada, was 16-hour drive, and then pack up all the stuff and then drive it all the way back. And then you pay for basically the distance traveled, I think. You pay for gas. You pay for any number of things like that. So it was quite the expense all of a sudden that we'd have to incur. So that's why we had the GoFundMe. We, suffice to say, did not meet that goal. So right away we're having to scramble. Like, okay, what do we do now? Like, we didn't meet that goal. Which, you know, we didn't want to depend on it, so we always had a plan B. Our plan B was simply that I would try to see if I could import my car. And I mentioned this before, I'm pretty sure. And we weren't sure how that whole process worked, or you know, I've heard horror stories from many, many people about importing cars being a difficult thing. And it was. Without a doubt, it was one of the most difficult things that we could do. The process is as follows. Basically, you need to ensure that your car, made in Canada, meets the safety standards of the vehicles made in the U.S. Otherwise, it's apparently not even roadworthy, I guess. You know, such a silly thing. Like, you could own a car and drive it for 30 years. Oh, but it doesn't meet our safety standards on our roads, so you can't bring it in. You can drive it in for a visit just fine. Stay here with your car for, heck, stay here for 3 months. Who cares? Stay here for 6 months. Drive it around for 6 months. Who cares? But as soon as you want to move it in permanently, well, now there's a problem. Got to meet our safety standards. You know, that's how ridiculous it sounds. It is ridiculous, but in a weird way, you can kind of see why they do it. Because if you have your, 50-year-old car from South Africa that, the brand itself doesn't even exist in the U.S., they have to ensure that it meets all the standards of the cars here in the U.S. And, it kind of makes sense. But for Canada, it's supposed to be an easier process because our cars are often manufactured not only with the same standards, but in the same factories. So it should be a little bit easier, right? Wrong. So we have to go through the same process of you have to call the manufacturer of your vehicle in the U.S. and get a compliance letter. That was pulling teeth. Absolutely insane. The amount of times I had to call them, the amount of times they screwed up, the amount of times they didn't even know that the process existed. It was an embarrassment to them. And, you know, I am not ashamed to tell people about how terrible it was. I mean, that's just, it is the case. There's nothing more to say about it, really. They sucked. And to think that, like, I need this in order to get my vehicle registered in the U.S. is, and it's hinging on someone's lack of information, lack of knowledge on a subject that they're hired for. Like, this is a job that they're hired for, is to work for this company that manufactured my car and give me that kind of information. So it was one problem after another. I finally managed to get everything I needed. And then the drive happened. So me and Win, we were driving, starting 16 hours, get to the border. So from where my house was, ooh, come on, why can't I hit him? Why can't I hit you? This is badness. This is bad. Kill this guy too. Alright. Dive down. Into the depths we go again. We get to the border, and we keep in mind we left the house at, we got up at 3. We left the house by 4. We were on the road by 4. And then we got to the border. It takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Roughly 2 hours. Taking your time. So we got there about 6 a.m. And just before 6 a.m., let's say. Like 10 to 6. And I go in and I'm super excited. And the guy says, okay, what's the purpose of your trip? And I say to him, I'm like, I'm here to immigrate. Yay. And he takes all of my information, takes all my info, and says, okay, go inside. So we went inside, and the guy who's looking at the case, he's looking at it, he's looking at it, he's looking at it, and he says right away, like, oh, guys, you know, I'm telling you, you guys probably aren't going to get out of here before 7 at the earliest, so, you know, hang tight. And we kind of expected that it would take a couple hours at the border. One of the things that Win was dreading is that they were going to unpack, because it took us a while to pack everything into my car. I've got a small, well, it's not small, but the interior's small, 2-door sports car, and to fit all of my worldly possessions into that car was a task. It was quite the ordeal. My dad helped. Thankfully, we got it figured out. But we were dreading the fact that they might have to tear everything apart, and then if they tore everything apart, then we'd have to put it all back. So we were kind of dreading that. We figured it would take about a couple hours for everything to happen. So the guy, Win, said, okay, well, it's going to take a lot of time. She hadn't really slept very well. I feel bad. She hadn't slept very well. She tossed and turned, you know, because she's in a different house when she was with me. One that she's not really comfortable with, necessarily. Can't see this guy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Okay. Leaving a little bit. Ouch. Seriously? There we go. Do I have a bow? Yes, I do. It's a good bow. Oh, they're fighting. Okay. So yeah, she didn't get very much sleep when she was at my house. My old house, I should say. And I don't blame her for that. That's, you know, it is what it is. She just couldn't sleep very well. Hello. Open. There we go. What do I want from here? Saddle, maybe. Some gunpowder. Take that. Yeah, I'll take it all. Sharpness 4 book. Not bad. Take that. I'll leave the rest. So she didn't sleep very well. So she said, okay, I'm going to go sleep in the car and, you know, wait for this process to be done. So when she was gone, I don't know if the guy waited for her to be gone or, you know, whatever the case might be, but he pulls me aside. He actually was like, sir, can you come here for a second? And I walked over and he said, I'm not really the guy who does these. I've never done one before. I've never done an immigration like this before. In fact, this isn't my normal shift. Unfortunately, the only person who will know how to do this comes in at 7 a.m. So the earliest that you're going to be able to have this process done and finished and on your way will be 7 a.m. You know, this is a very slow shift. We're not used to something like this happening this early. You know, and he was basically giving me excuse. But, you know, he was sitting there as 7 a.m. rolled over and someone did finally show up. He actually was sitting down and saying, like, I want to know how to do this. I want to learn. So, like, he was learning how to do it. I think just so that he would in the future not have the same situation happen. But unfortunately, it happened to me where, once again, I get the guy who doesn't know how the process works. And, you know, what can you say about it? There's nothing much you can say about it. I just had to wait for them to figure it out. Which way did I come in here? I'm already lost. This way. So they figured it out finally about 10 after 7 or so. 7:30, let's say. We were on the road again. We stopped off in Fargo. I think we had some breakfast there at some kind of like a little coffee place. Ooh. I'm going to drop down here. So we had coffee in Fargo and, you know, didn't really eat anything, but at least we stopped and had a little bit of a rest there. And then essentially it was onwards to our next stop, which was going to be St. Cloud, Minnesota. And the reason we went there, it was kind of off the beaten path a little bit. Not incredibly, but it did steer us, you know, 30 minutes or so out of our way. But it was a much needed stop as well. And we went there because someone who watches our videos and has been a huge supporter of us when it comes to things like those fundraiser things and, you know, that kind of stuff. She actually invited us for lunch and we had to oblige. Like, it's the least that we could do is kind of hang out and go for lunch and stuff, you know, and we needed it. So Zella, she actually invited us for lunch and we had some awesome pizza. She gave us some Nintendo hats, which are incredible, and I wore it for like the rest of the day. Really awesome. Really awesome. I can't stress enough how awesome that was. And in fact, we probably could have made more and more stops like that along the way. We had someone who is a streamer on Mixer was like, oh, where are you in Wisconsin? I'm in Madison. And like, here, we actually drove through Madison, but like, seriously, the time was ticking because we wanted to try to make it in one go, which in hindsight may not have been the most wise decision. And it was a tough one. It was a tough trip. We wanted to see Jake, and I texted him when we were driving through Chicago. But it was just, you know, it came down often to the time, because if we stopped and saw Jake, then the earliest we could get to where we needed to go would be like 3 in the morning. And do we really want to still be driving at 3 in the morning? Wynn was saying to me, like, let's stop, let's get a hotel. But I was feeling all right. I wasn't feeling tired. I was feeling pretty well rested. I had had a few naps along the trip whenever she drove, and rested my eyes and stretched when I needed to, and I felt okay. I felt like I could do it, and I did do it. We drove for 16 hours. Of those 16 hours, I think I drove for about 12 of the 16 or so. When driving the rest of the trip, but it was a tough trip. It was still not something that I would recommend to anybody who isn't prepared to at the very least, catch a few Z's along the way, which we didn't really do. I mean, I was able to rest and close my eyes, and when she was driving, but if she only did an hour spurt of a drive, then I only rested for about an hour. So it wasn't exactly like I had had a full sleep and then let's carry on. Where am I? I'm lost here. And then driving through Chicago was sort of nuts. Like, it's not something that I have done before. There were people who were driving so dangerously that Wynn and I were both like freaking out, like, oh my God, someone's going to die. Legitimately. Like, that's what we said. Because of the people, this one guy, for example, was like veering through traffic at breakneck speeds. Insanity. Someone will die eventually with this guy. And that's the unfortunate truth, is that this jerk is going to carry on doing what he's doing. Someone's going to lose their life. And unfortunately, there's not a lot we can do about it. So that's sad. It's sad to think that that might be the case, but when people drive like that, it's insane. So we've heard, I mean, the legend is that Chicago drivers are nuts, and this was kind of showing us that that was the case. Absolutely. For the most part, though, it actually really wasn't that bad, and we did get turned around a few times when it came to like the toll roads and stuff. But again, by and large, we made it through there pretty easily. Got in around 2 a.m. or so. So quite the drive. And then I left everything in my car, and I unloaded it the next day. And yeah, that's what it is. Okay, I recognize this. I recognize that I came down this way. Woo. So that was the trip. It was crazy. I am here now. There were no problems at the border, both with Wynn coming down and with me going out of Canada. And I am so turned around. What the heck? What the heck? Okay, I am really turned around. This is the way out? I see daylight. Okay. Okay. So, I am now settled. I am now at home, finally. But there's still a lot of work to do. We still need to get married, number one. After that is done, what we're gonna do is adjust my status so that I'm a permanent resident of the U.S. And that entails getting, well, things like, the standard stuff. Like, I need a driver's license for Michigan. I need to register my car in Michigan. I need a social security number, which I don't have. I need a work permit. I need all kinds of other things like that so that I can switch over my work to the U.S. It's a crazy amount of stuff that is needed and that we're doing. I still haven't completely figured out all my bills and stuff from Canada, how we're taking care of that. My dad is going to be taking care of it for the most part, but like what happens in the event that something were to happen to him, I don't know. the what ifs. So it's all kind of scary, all that kind of stuff. But we're dealing with it one day at a time. And that's that. That's that. So again, I mean, it's been such a long process. What is it? 3 years? You know, it's been a long, long, long time. Whose horse is this? This is a tamed horse. Someone's poor tamed horse. I mean, I got a saddle, buddy boy. Buddy horse. Someone's poor little horse. Slow. Anyway, I think that's where we're going to end it. It's been years in the making, this relationship. We're still working on immigration stuff, and we will be for the next like 3 years. So, I mean, don't think that it's all over yet, but the bulk of it, the majority of it, 99.9% of it is done. I am in the U.S. I am living in the U.S. That's all really that I can say about it. So it's just a crazy process. Anyway, thankfully everything went smoothly. The drive was a little long. We should have taken a break. But apart from that, you know everything now. You've been with us through everything now. And we thank you for everything now. Thank you so much, everybody. And we'll see you guys next time on TimeShot. Bye-bye.